What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to talk about Cruel Intentions Season 1. I finished it and I really hope they renew it. I know it's a little late, the show's been out for a while. I kind of took my time through it because I was actually enjoying it. I apologize. I know as critics we're not supposed to do those things, um, but I actually liked it. I think the show has really solid audio description. One of my favorite things is the show has a heavy use of fade to black in the audio description. Always, always is fade to black, fade to black, fade to black. I'm like, was this show built for commercial breaks? Anyway, um, so yeah, it'd be great. It's great for I think maybe it was developed for Freevee, which was, like a commercial, which was the commercial based version of Amazon and just ended up on Amazon because they do have a lot of those breaks where it feels like cut to commercial, cut to commercial, cut to commercial. So this is sort of a reimagining update for Cruel Intentions, the movie, which they already tried to do a TV show once, which resulted in Cruel Intentions 2, the straight to video sequel, which has Amy Adams in it. I know she wishes it didn't, but it does. Um, and Cruel Intentions has sort of developed into a this thing with a cult following that still exists today, where people are still discovering Cruel Intentions, which is why I think the TV show is hitting at the right time. It's something that very much people are still watching. Sort of like there's a Mean Girls musical, there is a Cruel Intentions musical. It's just not as popular as Mean Girls musical. And people have really embraced this film that I loved in 1999. I really did love this film in 1999. This film is, you can check out, I have a review of it. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. So on the same day I'm dropping this, I'm dropping my 25th anniversary of Cruel Intentions. So check that out if you want to know my thoughts on the movie. But I was trepidatious to jump into this because it could go either way. I actually enjoyed the I Know What You Did Last Summer show that Amazon did because it wasn't a direct remake. It kept the same vibes as The Thing and was actually far gorier than any of the films. Uh, just to be totally honest. But that only lasted one season. So I'm hoping Amazon takes a swing on this and keeps this around for a second season. I don't know that they will. This does leave it open for a second season. This is not a limited series, which means the ending to season one is different than the ending of the movie, which some people have pointed out already online. You may or may not know that. Although there's a lot that's changed. The internet is different. 25 years later, the way that we consume things. So a lot, even how sexuality is. When you look at how Joshua Jackson's character was treated sort of in the first Cruel Intentions versus how the character of Blaze is in this world. Some of the names are a little bit different, but Blaze in this, he has way more to do. He's in a frat. And while there are some jokes maybe at his expense, the film doesn't feel totally like a giant, you know, danger Will Robinson in terms of LGBT representation. So it does feature a lot of people who you would argue are sort of like maybe not the best people that you would want to spend time with. Caroline, who was played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, the equivalent of Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, is uh, never really given a chance to do any sort of redemption in season one. So I would be interested to see where they take her in another season. She's persistently the villain here. They didn't really change that. Lucien is the equivalent of Ryan Phillippe's character from the movie, and he has, I would say, sort of like a similar moment, but it's different because they're in college, not at like a prep school. And like I said, technology is different. They're in fraternities. He's like in a fraternity. They don't just like go home after high school. There aren't a lot of parents around because again they're of age, so the only parents that really travel in and out are only like a couple of them, and you see them very rarely. Whereas like the movie had like Christine Baranski and Swoosie Kurtz, and there was a third one that escapes my memory right now, but it utilized a couple of well-known actresses at the time in those roles. So here, the adults are much less. Cece, who was the equivalent of Selma Blair in the movie, she has a completely different dynamic. She's not nearly as stupid as she is in the movie. She's actually kind of smart when you listen to her. She's just scatterbrained. Like I think Caroline treats her like she's an idiot, but when you really start to listen to her, she becomes a TA for a teacher. So instead of having like that affair or whatever with the her music teacher, it's she becomes attracted to an actual professor. So they sort of change that up. She becomes his TA, and she has intelligent conversations. Like there are things that she says here that they didn't really give Selma Blair the opportunity to evolve as a character. So you understand that Cece actually has thought, whereas in the other film she's not portrayed as having any, and really easy to convince to do dumb shit. Here she's just a little bit too trusting, I guess you could say. The Reese Witherspoon equivalent has changed a lot. She's now the vice president's daughter. So um, that is the draw, and the main plot of the story is that the frats have been doing frats and sororities have been Greek row has been up to shenanigans, and the schools have had about enough, and they're about to pull out the charters. And Caroline is the head of her sorority, and surmises that if she can get the vice president's daughter in her sorority, that um, she will that her nobody's going to pull the sorority of the vice president's daughter. Like their charter will be safe. So she's trying to get Annie to pledge her sorority. And she makes the same sort of, her and Lucian had the same play that they do in the movie, that weird sexual tension between the two of them. And it's the same author, it's just said a little bit differently. Um, we're missing the line, you can put it anywhere you want. And it's transferred into um, you can do it something like you can do anything for 2 hours or something like that. You can have me for 2 hours or something like that. I'll do it's more like a length of time without specifically a reference to anal. Anyway, so uh yeah, it's a that's there, and they have this weird tension throughout the whole. Lucian also has a weird tension anytime his stepmother is in frame. Um, she's obviously, but that goes interesting places. She's one of the few adults that actually is in more than one episode. Again, along with the professor, probably the two. The professor probably actually the adult that's in the most episodes, if I'm being honest, followed by maybe their mom, Lucian Carolyn's mom. Um, and yeah, Lucian is persuaded to try to help her get Annie into the thing by, of course, wooing her and the usual, the cruel intentions of it all. So, and of course, he falls for her, and he has 8 episodes to do so too. By the way, so it's a much more well fleshed out dynamic in their relationship. Um, there's other stuff too. There's another. There's the fraternity that Lucian's involved in. He has to get rid of somebody there, and they sort of put in a new. Blaze is just as conniving as he is. Blaze is just a poor version of Lucian, basically. Like you see a lot of stuff that he is manipulating, and which makes it great that there are other characters that are manipulating each other too. So there are those that are doing the manipulating and those that are being manipulated. So you have characters like Caroline, Lucian, and Blaze who are strongly manipulating, whereas you have characters like Annie You have Scott, who is sort of an idiot and ends up getting moved into a fraternity position. I love I love when he, like, towards the end of the series, I can't give you the context, but he's like, I need that by end of day. EOD. I looked it up. It means end of day. you um and so yeah, he's not the brightest bunch. And Cece also is definitely being manipulated. There's another character who is sort of calling their bullshit and is trying to get rid of Greek Row. She has quite a bit to do here. I can't find a parallel to her character in the movie because she's somebody who wants to be in but isn't in, and she's out, and then she's in, she's out. She's a friend of Annie's. Like, she has a lot to do. She kind of, they bounce her around. She's a very as needed character. There are a couple of fraternity brothers that wouldn't have existed in the TV show because Lucian didn't have friends. He didn't have fraternity, so he does now. And that's kind of the show without telling you how it ends, because it's the end of the season, not the end of the series. So I don't want to ruin it, but it follows a similar trajectory with each one of the characters, but changes it enough so that you don't feel like you're just watching a retread, and has some interesting ways of updating things to 2024 instead of 1999. So I really enjoyed Cruel Intentions. I had a lot of fun with it. It's what people would call a guilty pleasure. It's one of those shows that nobody's gonna nominate for an Emmy, but you know what? People have been watching Virgin River for what, 6 seasons now? I want to watch Cruel Intentions for 6 seasons. Well, maybe not, but at least another one. So for me, I've at least it's earned the right to come back. My grading is based on also level of enjoyment, not necessarily like, oh my god, is this like great television? So, at the end of the day, I prefer the movie, but I think that was always going to happen. Even with the I Know What You Did Last Summer TV show, which I enjoyed, I would still prefer the movie. So there isn't really anything that has, neither of these things have really tackled and toppled the thing that they are coming from. So, decent performances, decent cast, but they all feel like they're living in the shadow of somebody else. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to make anybody a star, but it could be something that's just sort of entertaining for Amazon. Why not? Why not do it? It can't be that expensive of a show. So, I like the audio description, and I hope they say yes. I'm going to give Cruel Intentions a B+. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.